is that yes, India is going to launch a war on Pakistan. I'm certain of that. And they'll do it on behalf of Israel. And when they launch the war on Pakistan, their objective is to denuclearize Pakistan. So Pakistan will not have a deterrent capacity, military capacity. And if Pakistan does not have that, no Muslims will have it, none. And having denuclearized Pakistan, it doesn't matter to them if millions of Hindus have to die in nuclear war, it doesn't matter to them. They will then break up Pakistan into bits and pieces. On that day when the attack on Pakistan takes place, Pakistan will then turn to China, hoping, or rather dreaming that China will intervene militarily. But China will not, unless Russia does. Let me repeat that, so Islamabad will hear me. China will not intervene militarily in Pakistan unless Russia also does it. Because China is not going to take on NATO by itself. No. But if Russia agrees to intervene, then China is there with Russia. Will Russia intervene? No. The Russians are not fools. The Russians can distinguish between, let me not say this, all right, let me keep this out. The Russians are not fools. The Russians are not fools. Russia is conducting the best foreign policy in the world today. Russia is conducting the best diplomacy in the world today. There's first-class diplomacy. Nothing in the world could compare with Russian foreign policy and Russian diplomacy. And Russia is not convinced that they can trust Pakistan. Russia is not convinced that they can trust Pakistan. No. When even the CIA, which always tells lies, like Shaitan, but one day tells the truth, like Shaitan. The Prophet said, he's Shaitan, but today he's speaking the truth. That's what the Prophet said. And the CIA said, it's Muhammad bin Salman, he ordered the killing. CIA said that. And yet, the government of Pakistan, just for money, that's all, money. That's where the Ummah is today, for money. Decides to take morality and spirituality and fidelity to truth and to justice and throw it down to the window. And invite Muhammad bin Salman to a red carpet treatment. Welcome to Pakistan. And no Pakistani stood up and protested. There were no protests in Pakistan, none. If there were, please correct me. Russia saw that. So Russia knows what's the character of the Pakistani leadership today. The character. And Russia will not intervene. No, to save Pakistan, no. And if Russia does not intervene, you can tell Imran Khan for me, China will not intervene. And if China and Russia do not intervene, Pakistan's goose is cooked. Next question. I'm not following the debates now. I'm not following the drama unfolding every day, no. I'm just looking at it from a distance and looking at it from a global perspective. And I differ with those who would consider Trump to be just another Zionist like Hillary. And the two sides of the same coin, no difference between the two. No, I differ with that. I believe that Trump offers a challenge to the system, a challenge to the political system, and the demonization of Trump that is taking place every day in the media is similar to the demonization of Russia that is taking place every day in the media. Yeah. Trump is not a Muslim. I don't expect Trump to follow the standards of Islam. No. But I expect Trump to do whatever he has to do to win the election. Even if he has to shake hands with the devil to win the elections, he would do it. Yeah, I don't see anything. Different from that when it comes to Trump. No, but he is challenging the system. That's definitely. He is not the normal politician. No. And those in the past who have challenged the system have paid the price for it. Kennedy did that, and Kennedy is no more. Okay? And I therefore have come to the conclusion that Trump poses a significant and a serious problem for them, for Gog and Magog. That they cannot risk his becoming President of the United States and then blocking and stopping the war against Russia. And therefore, my interest in the subject now, from the viewpoint of eschatology, is that as the date of the American elections draw closer, and the rivalry between Trump and Clinton shows that Trump is on the ascendancy with the possibility to become president, that the dangers of the nuclear war increases, the war on Russia increasing. And I'm sure that the Russian leadership are aware of it. They don't need to be reminded by me, of course. So the world is on the brink of the Great War. And look at the American election, therefore, carefully from that perspective.
Many people, they look at the Muslim community and they see problems within it. They wonder why, if Islam is a religion of peace, why is it that, there so much violence, for example, is prevailing within the Muslim community throughout the world? So could you please elaborate on this?
I think that perhaps those who are seeing the world of Islam as a world of violence need to make an appointment with an eye specialist, because they have eyes and they don't really see. The world of Islam today is the victim of the greatest oppression and violence. If you look at the number of refugees in the world today, they are Muslims most of all. If you look at the people who are being killed in unjust wars, the overwhelming majority of them are Muslim. And then you come to me to ask me why are Muslims oppressed? I say to you, go and get an appointment with an eye specialist. You're blind to come to me with such an impertinent question. Yes, I notice that amongst my people, there are some who perhaps drink some kind of a tonic that comes from Santa Claus. And then they fight wars for the oppressor, on behalf of the oppressor. And these people, I don't want to use too violent language for them, but the Santa Claus gives them the weapons, and Santa Claus gives them the money and the visas and so on. And then they go and they fight wars for Santa Claus, and they commit acts of oppression and so on. And I have to answer for that? I mean, this is impertinence. You should ask Santa Claus, why is he doing that? They've been doing that in Syria for so long. And now they're planning some more fireworks in Syria. And all the, excuse my language, all the jackasses in the world will then say, why is this happening? Why are Muslims behaving like this? We must go against Saddam. We must go for Assad. Get him, because look what he's doing. It's not Santa Claus. It's not Assad who is doing all the chemical attacks. Go ask Santa Claus the answer, and he will tell you why is it that all of these things are taking place in an otherwise world of Islam, which is under monstrous attack all around, and is being oppressed as never before in history.
A subject that I hope we can take up at another time, a more fundamental analysis of how they have succeeded in organizing the world of Islam in such a way that it cannot oppose them, does not pose a threat to them. That what they have done before the
with the Ottoman Empire, how they used the Ottoman Empire to control the world of Islam on their behalf, and then how Saudi Arabia replaced the Ottoman Empire and they used the Saudi control over the Hajj and over the Arabian heartland of Islam and used the petrodollar to win over such kind of control by hook and by crook, mostly by crook, over the world of Islam on their behalf. And how they were able to get the world of Islam to abandon the political system, a political organization is there in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet, namely the Khilafah state. The Khilafah state is what David and Solomon gave in the Holy Land. The Holy State of Israel is a Khilafah state. The same state is what our Prophet has given in Medina, and it's what's located in the Quran, the Khilafah state. And to get the whole world of Islam to abandon the Khilafah state and take this republican state, take this secular state in its place, what was the role that Pakistan played in achieving this glorious victory for modern Western civilization? And what was the role of scholars like Muhammad Iqbal in getting the world of Islam to abandon the Khilafah state and to accept and embrace the modern secular state with the United Nations control, and therefore to allow world government? We know what world government is. This is the area that needs to be studied and explored. We do not have scholarship as yet in the world of Islam which has looked at this subject from an eschatological perspective, and I'd like to do it sometime, God willing.
Good afternoon, Sheikh Imran. Thank you very much for accepting this interview for La Preuve de Concierge. My first question would please be, do you think that it is right to talk about Judeo-Christianism since Jesus came to revolutionize Judaism?
Judeo-Christian links or ties have always been a part of Christian history from the time of Jesus, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, because the Christians accused the Jews and held them responsible for the crucifixion of Jesus. And there was eternal enmity and hatred and hostility towards the Jews on the part of the Christian world. And we now find in the modern age a very mysterious reconciliation and friendship and alliance between Jews and Christians.
But maybe more between Jews and Protestant Christians, no? Rather than Catholics.
Well, the alliance is most certainly not with all Christians, and most certainly not all Jews. No. There is a part of the Jewish world and a part of the Christian world which have come together in a mysterious friendship, reconciliation and an alliance, and the Vatican has played a strategically important role in furthering that reconciliation. And so today the world witnesses a Judeo-Christian alliance. And the bond between the two, which have bonded them together, is Zionism. So it is a Judeo-Christian Zionist alliance. But there are Christians who are not a part of that alliance. There are Roman Catholics, there are Protestants, there are Orthodox Christians who are not a part of that alliance. and there are Jews who are not a part of the alliance. From our perspective as Muslims, we make a distinction between Christians who are a part of that alliance and Christians who are not. And the Quran is very clear and very plain and very emphatic in prohibiting Muslims from maintaining friendly ties and becoming allies of such Christians and such Jews who themselves have forged that Judeo-Christian alliance. The Quran, on the other hand, has spoken about a Christian people.
The money which is coming, I said 15 years ago is going to come, it's already here. When the US dollar collapses, it's going to bring down the whole world of paper money with it. And this bogus and fraudulent and utterly haram paper money, which of course we can defend anytime anyone wants to challenge us or not, is going to be replaced with electronic money, which will be more haram and more dangerous. I thought it's coming in the future, it's already here. But then imagine my surprise, based on my study of Islamic eschatology. 2 years ago I realized that the same people who have given us paper money in order to rip us off and to reduce Indonesia to abject poverty, so our daughters will now be maids all over the world, our daughters, and be paid the salary of dogs and cats. Our daughters. The same people who are now giving us electronic money in order to have a system where you have espionage to track down every single transaction and to be able to close an account whenever they want to, whenever it's convenient. The same people are going to bring back gold and silver tomorrow as money. I was surprised when I discovered that we're moving towards a tomorrow, maybe 20 years from now, when Israel is going to mint gold and silver. Oh, is going to mint gold and silver? My gosh, Imran, you are behind time. Israel is already minting gold and silver coins. Go to Singapore, you see them on display. I don't want to live to see that day when those who are today waging war on Islam on Israel's behalf are going to bring back gold and silver as money.
Can now come to help you another time. I'm going to give you an example now. I was Imam of a masjid in Long Island in 1999. I had a dream. And I considered the dream to be so important that I included the dream in my khutbah for Salatul Jum'ah. So all those who were present will give the evidence. Yes, he did have that dream, and he told us. I saw myself in Manhattan, the island of Manhattan, and I saw tall buildings with balls of fire falling on the buildings, and the balls of fire were jumping from one building to another, jumping and jumping and jumping, and then they were jumping out of Manhattan into the rest of the world and spreading all over the world. I saw myself on the other side of Manhattan River, that I was safe. 2 years later, 9/11 took place. And when 9/11 took place, I recognized this is what I saw. It took 2 years. How important is this? That I should remember what I saw and measure the time span.
I would like to use the opportunity to share with you and with your viewing audience that there's a part of my life which is private, and that's my dreams. And I hardly ever reveal my dreams to public. I never use it for my analytical work and so on. But on this occasion, I have to reveal that I've had 8 dreams, 8 so far, over the last less than 2 years of nuclear war. It is amazing that the dreams keep on repeating themselves, okay? 8 dreams in less than 2 years on nuclear war. And so I fear, I hope I'm wrong, I would be very happy if I'm wrong, but I fear that nuclear war is going to be provoked soon.
Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam prophesied that the time will come, a time will come when the ulama of Islam will be the worst people beneath the sky. يوشك يأتي على الناس زمان لا يبقى من الإسلام إلا اسمه لا يبقى ولا يبقى من القرآن إلا رسمه مساجدهم عامرة وهي خراب من الهدى علماؤهم شر الناس ممن تحت أديب السماء من عندهم تخرج الفتنة وفيهم تعود. This is the hadith this person is referring to. How can we recognize, if we are living in Akhiru Zaman, how can we recognize the true ulama? Not the one who are the worst people beneath the sky, the true ulama. Simple. You will find them to be a people who are kind and compassionate and humble and forgiving, not arrogant. No. Not with so many titles before the name and so many titles after the name. No. You'll find them to be a people who are spiritually elevated. Spiritually elevated. And you'll find them to be a people whose knowledge is such that they have the capacity to respond to the world in which they are now living. Not yesterday. They can understand and they can penetrate the reality of the world today. And they have the capacity to respond to it appropriately. They are the people of Khidr alayhi salam. Look for them, and when you follow them, when you find them, follow them. I don't know where this nonsense came from, whether it came from Hollywood or from Disneyland, that when Jesus returns, he's not coming back as a Nabi. Yes. This is not just nonsense. This is dangerous nonsense. Because Allah made an appointment and you dismissed him. You must be very brave. Huh? Or very stupid. If Allah makes an appointment, how can you dismiss him? Only Allah has that authority. When he comes back, he's coming back as a Nabi, of course. Only Allah can change that. Yes.
I think I speak of myself and most of the people here. As a student, after we finish, we need to get a good job. For that good job, of course, good salary. For the good salary, we need to buy something like a car to move on, to move around, and a house to live in, and get married, all this stuff. But the problem is, after you said whatever you said about everybody think about the bank. As you can see, Sheikh, that most of the stuff here, in all the countries, I'm sure I'm talking about Sudan, Saudi Arabia, whatever's going on in the Arabic world, everything is expensive. The house is expensive, the car is expensive. Yeah, depending on my salary, I cannot afford to buy anything of that. So I have to go to the bank and ask them to buy it for me and get it, and
Install them.
Install, yeah, 10 years, 20 years. So what can I do? Because
okay. You can, if you want, go the way of the world. Let me tell you my way. I've attended 5 universities. 5. I was a diplomat in the foreign service of my country. Okay? I gave up that job. Many Pakistanis told me I was a fool. Only a fool will give up a job of a diplomat to become a mullah. If I didn't give up that job, I couldn't be here today with you to do what I've just done. So there are things in life that money cannot buy. I'm now almost 70 years of age. Never had a house. In 2005, I built the ground floor of my home with 1 bedroom. 1 bedroom. And then just before I left Trinidad to come on this lecture tour, I was able to build the upper floor with 2 other bedrooms. That's how houses were built long time. I didn't go to a bank and borrow money to build a house, no. I live in a rented apartment. I lived in New York for 10 years. I lived in small cubby apartments. Couldn't afford. But I did that to remain faithful to Islam. I left New York in 2001 after having lived in the United States for 12 years. The car I was driving was worth $500. Yeah. The car I was driving was worth $500. So there is that way, which is the way of the world. You want a big job, you want a big house, you want a big car, you need this thing, well go ahead and borrow your money on interest. And when you're in the hellfire, don't call me. Don't call me on the phone. Don't send an email from Jahannam. Or you can go the other way. The other way is no. Even if I have to give up house, and give up car, and give up job, give up my home, give up my town, and flee to a cave in the mountain, I would prefer to do that. But I'm not giving up my deen. This is, only young people can do that. And you are young people, mashaAllah. The attack on Pakistan is coming. And when the attack on Pakistan takes place, it will be for the purpose of destroying Pakistan's nuclear plans and dismantling Pakistan's nuclear weapons. Israel cannot launch a big wars when Muslims have a weapon that they can use effectively against Israel. It follows, therefore, that perhaps the first attack will be Pakistan. Given the support that the Pakistan government and the Pakistan armed forces, I don't know why Pakistanis should be annoyed with me for this. This is facts. The Pakistan armed forces have betrayed Allah and His messenger monstrously. I'm talking not about the soldiers who love Islam. I'm talking about those who control strategic decision making. Don't come to me and tell me that all the soldiers in the Pakistan armed forces, I know that. I know that the Pakistani people love Islam. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who control decision making in the armed forces and in the government. They are the ones who betrayed Allah and His messenger. They are the ones who for the last 10 years shamelessly have allowed NATO transit to take all the oil supplies and all the military supplies from the port in Karachi, all through Pakistan to Afghanistan, to support the killing of our Muslim brothers and sisters and children in Afghanistan, thanks to the Pakistan armed forces and Pakistan government. And you're going to be annoyed with me for condemning that? Yes, there are many people in Pakistan and the armed forces who love Islam and who detest what has happened, but they're not in control. What we have done tonight.
The Muslims in India, they're finding themselves in a unique and a very, very difficult situation.
Hopeless.
So,
Not unique, hopeless. Go ahead.
so what should the Muslims, because that's because of the rise of, the Hindu forces, clearly. So what should, the Muslims in that part of the world should be doing to overcome that, those evil forces?
Yes, it will be beneficial for you if you can have a new generation of ulama, of scholars of Islam, who have a grounding in political thought and economic thought and monetary thought, and who can penetrate the reality of the world today. Such ulama will be able to reach out to the Hindu world to create a more positive image of Islam in the Hindu world, as we are doing with the Orthodox Christian world now. And we are saying to the Orthodox Christian world, that was not Islam, that came there with a bloody sword to fight you for 600 years and take your women and make them slaves in their harem, and take your boys and convert them to Islam by force, and then they become the elite fighting force of the Ottoman Empire. That was not Islam. That was bogus. Similarly with the Mughals. I don't know whether you have a copy of it, but I never saw the copy of the invitation letter that the Hindus invited the Muslims to come and rule over them. Did you ever see the invitation letter? Did you ever see the invitation letter? Huh? Did the Hindus ever invite the Muslims to come and rule over them? No. We never send an army, never, to attack another people offensively, to conquer their territory. That's bogus jihad. We respond to aggression, yes, if you attack us. Or, if a people are oppressed, and they're crying out for help, and you try to resolve the problem peacefully, and you have failed to resolve it peacefully, then you declare jihad, and then that territory becomes Darul Harb. And those people will then welcome you when you come. And when you liberate that territory, you'll not be an occupier, they will not hate you. But all these years of Mughal rule over India, look at the residue. Eternal hatred for Islam amongst Hindus. They didn't invite us, so you have to apologize. You have to first declare that this is not Islam. This is Islamic imperialism. You did not invite us. This is not Islam. We have to apologize to you. You think any Indian will do that? Any Indian Muslim will do that? Apologize to the Hindus? Are we not supposed to do this? No. If you address the Hindu world intelligently, you can separate those whose hearts are filled with hatred for Islam, and it cannot be changed, from those who can be changed. And I don't think I should speak any further on this subject here. Okay? And if you're only reciting the Quran and you understand nothing what you're reciting, you are disrespecting the book. Be careful. Be careful. If you live all your life like that, bus eating your biryani and going home to sleep, and never make the effort to try to understand. The Imam is reciting the Quran, and at the end of the recitation of the Salat, someone asks you, what did he say? I don't know, but it was a nice tune. You're disrespecting the Quran. When you develop that bond with the Quran and your tears fall on the book, and you burn the midnight oil, and you struggle, and you plant, and you plant, and you plant, and you plant, one day you start to reap. And then you'll understand what the Mughals did to India. They set up the Indian Muslims. And today you're reaping the bloody harvest of what they set up over so many hundred years.
And hence Tamerlane was sent to India.
This is wickedness, really. That you come with a point of a sword, is that Islam? This imperial Islam, where did it come from? Did the Hindus invite you to come and rule over them? No. If you want to wage a valid jihad, the people have to invite you, the oppressed have to ask you to come. No, you don't come with your army from Afghanistan to conquer India. No. The oppressed have to ask you to come. And I think it's gone now. Yeah. The oppressed have to ask you to come. And then there's a process. You have to first explore and exhaust all possible peaceful means of resolving the problem. And when you have failed, only then you are allowed to wage war. Did they do that in India? And now we have the bitter harvest. And then they take a place which for thousands of years the Hindus considered to be the birthplace of Ram, one of their main gods. And an invader who came with the point of the sword then takes this holy place to build a masjid and leave behind him for hundreds of years to come a river of blood. That's the way to study history. When you go to the Quran, you see the similarity between the Mughal imperial, and the Ottoman Empire. So yes, I am disputing the historical record, and the Turkish Muslims don't like it at all. And the Muslims in the Balkans, they don't like it at all. And maybe the Indian Muslims will also don't like it at all. But this is the truth. We have to reread history. That's right. We have to reread history. And when we reread history from the light of the Quran, we'll be able to remove the cobwebs and see things as they are. And that is what has happened in India. We've been set up. And that was happening in the Ottoman world. We were set up.
One is, you say the workers' money has no intrinsic value. I don't know how to respond when people say, what is the intrinsic value of...
I did not in this lecture define money. It is in previous lectures and in my book, but in this lecture I did not define money. But if I were to define money, then I'd use what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, in a transaction in which there is an exchange of gold for gold, or silver for silver, or wheat for wheat, or barley for barley, or dates for dates, or salt for salt. He mentioned 6. Once it is like for like, it must be equal for equal. Otherwise, and also it must be hand to hand, a cash transaction, not credit. Otherwise it would be riba. What is common to all 6? Gold, silver, wheat, barley, dates and salt, is they were all used as money. But today, it is impossible to teach people this. They can't understand. Understanding has gone. All 6 were used as money. And hence from this we realize that money in the Quran and money in the Sunnah is always money with intrinsic value. We're only talking about the Quran and the Sunnah. We're not talking about the IMF. The definition of money which derives from the Quran and Sunnah is that money always has intrinsic value. Go ahead.
The second one is, you say riba is the best weapon for the just.
It is his most formidable weapon. Yes, the most formidable weapon he has.
So we need to check this opinion on the design of it from gold, plastic, right now, digital, and whether there is...
Yes, this is the subject I've been teaching for 25 years now. Because I am perhaps the only Islamic scholar who also studied international monetary economics in 2 universities. It is not taught in the Darul Uloom. It's not taught in the Jamia. They don't know the subject. Unless you can teach them, they don't know the subject. Yeah? But we cannot give you a lecture on Islam and international monetary economics tonight. Yeah? But you can find, I have a book at the back, The Gold Dinar and Silver Dirham, Islam and the Future of Money. Yeah. Next question. society you, then I can lecture you on riba. And I can teach you the subject of riba. You'll never understand it. No, you'll never understand it. You'll never accept it. Does anyone have a 10 ringgit note? Oh, yeah, good, mashallah. Here we are. Here we are. What would you say if I say to you that this paper currency is Dajjal's money? Yes? What are you going to do? You going to put me in jail for that? Are you going to say this is sedition? Or send me to Guantanamo? Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you if the scholar of Islam does not have the freedom to speak. I'm not talking through my hat. I have studied international monetary economics in 2 universities. I spent 15 or 20 years of my life in the study of riba before I come to say to you, this paper currency is bogus. It is fraudulent. It is haram. It is a vehicle for the exploitation and the legalized theft, stealing of the wealth and the sweat of the masses. If today Indonesia is miserably poor, this is part of the reason for it. If today Singapore is filthy rich, I use the word filthy because sometimes your wealth smells. This is part of the reason for it. Well then, how is it that so few can understand that Dajjal is the architect of this money? How is it that so few can understand that today's international monetary system has come from Dajjal? The answer is because of spiritual bribe.
How significant is Imran Khan's victory in the latest Pakistan's general election?
I like that question. Yes, he was a good cricketer. We share the same name, Imran. He was a good cricketer, a good captain. He fought as a cricketer. He fought courageously with determination. If you can stay at the wicket and fight and fight and fight when your team is in a crisis and take all the thunderbolts that a Freddie Truman might send against you, okay, and keep your wicket and stay there until you either draw the match or you win the game, then you are a good captain. And that's how he led from the front. And he had the capacity to see which member of his team was not playing. Yeah, which one? So I don't consider him to be a professional politician. And I say, thank God. And the Pakistani people are also saying, thank God, that we don't have a politician now as our prime minister. A cricketer will do a better job, or has the possibility of doing a better job than that whole jamaat of corrupted politicians and professional politicians. Go your way, you fail. This cricketer might succeed where all of you have failed. However, having said that, and that we look positively now to the possibility that Pakistan may have a different experience now under this government, there is a warning to be delivered. And I'm going to deliver this warning on Saturday, inshallah, when I speak on the Quran, Pakistan's monetary and economic predicament and the new Imran Khan's government. And that is, you have to be able to recognize that secular scholarship coming out of the universities have not only failed in the past, but will continue to fail. Even if you are in the top 25 scholars of the world of economic thought, You know, Santa Claus always sends these lists of the top 25 here. So, even if you have those scholars, they failed in the past and they still fail. You cannot succeed with them. Or what about the Maulanas? Unfortunately, the world of Islamic scholarship also it is inadequate. The training they got, the education they got is inadequate. But the bottom line is, you cannot succeed, Imran Khan, where every single government before you failed. You cannot succeed unless you go to the Quran. If you don't believe me, then go ahead, and 5 years from now we'll see where you are. If you are to go to the Quran, to locate that guidance in the Quran, with which to explain and to respond to the predicament you have for the, then you need that scholarship. You need that kind of scholarship. And that was the scholarship that came from my teacher, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, and which I inherited. And we are always ready to assist the government. Yes, thank you.
Sheikh Imran, Jazakumullah khair. We thank you for your time. And it's been a great pleasure having you here.
You're most welcome. Yes, thank you.
We look forward to the next time.
Inshallah.
And
Okay.
to Saturday's lecture as well.
Inshallah. Okay. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you have debts in a business, if you start a business with no debts in it,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is there any business that can be started without debts?
yes, it is possible to start a business without debts. Once you have some money, you could use that money to buy an axe and go in the forest and cut the wood and make bundles, go to the market and sell the bundles of wood. The daughter of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, she and her husband Ali, they did this. They went to the jungle, they cut the wood, they made bundles, they brought it to the market, they sold without entering into debt. So yes, it is possible. However, if you want to do a business and you do not have enough capital, I said that I commended the Western stock market for this principle, that you can get people who have capital and who are not using their capital to put it to work by bringing it into your business and investing in your business. They call it stocks and shares. And when your business makes a profit, they will get a share of the profit. But if the business suffers a loss, they will share in the loss. So in this way, you can do your business without having sufficient capital, by attracting capital from those who have the capital to invest. This is called mudaraba. Whenever I do not have sufficient knowledge of a subject, I always decline to speak. And I send you to someone who has more knowledge of the subject than I have. I do not have enough knowledge of insurance to be able to give a scholarly response. But I do have enough knowledge to say I am not going to take any insurance. No, I avoid all insurance. I consider insurance to be the sister of riba. And it is only when the state forces me into insurance, like motor car insurance, that I cannot avoid, then I take the motor car insurance until such time when my Muslim village is built. You have your urban village, I have my Muslim village. And in my Muslim village, inshallah, you can't drive to the masjid. No, there are no roads to drive. There are only roads to walk. So it's a pedestrian village. A pedestrian village. And everybody will walk into the masjid and walking back to their kampung homes. And we try to put the cemetery in between. So as you're walking to go and walking to come back, you remember One day we're going there, inshallah. Yes. So I try to avoid all insurance, personally. But that's my personal choice. The other question? The next question, are you, Imran Hosein, are you a Shia? No, I'm not Shia. Are the Shia Muslims? My answer is yes. Only Muslims are allowed to perform the Hajj. And to the best of my understanding and knowledge, the Shias have consistently been allowed to perform the Hajj throughout the 1400 years of the history of this Ummah. I don't know if there were one or two moments where they were not allowed, but that's irrelevant. Because for 99% of the time, the Shia are performing the Hajj. And even to this day, the Shia are performing the Hajj. And therefore the ijma' of this Ummah is that the Shia are Muslims. And I think it's a little bit late now to come with a fatwa that the Shia are kuffar. I am not Shia, but I consider them to be Muslims. And I relate with all my Muslim brothers and sisters the way I ought to relate to them. If a Muslim brother or sister is on the path of error, then I must correct them. But I must not correct them with hatred in my heart. I must not correct them in a destructive way. I must correct them with love in my heart, and I must correct them in a constructive way. No, I'm not Shia, and I'm not Deobandi, and I am not Barelvi, and I am not Salafi, and I am not Tabligh Jamaat. I am not a part of this sectarian divide. And I don't want to be a part of that sectarianism. I abhor it. On the contrary, I am struggling to build a model of a Muslim village. Everybody knows that. And in this village, I want the Sufi and the Salafi to live together in the village as brothers. And so I am struggling for unity amongst Muslims. And I recognize governments can't unite the Muslims. No. I recognize that the only thing that you can unite the Muslims is the Quran and Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And so once we stay firmly with the Quran and with Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, I have confidence in my heart that we can live together despite our differences. The Prophet spoke about 10 signs of the last day. They are Dajjal, number 2, Gog and Magog, number 3, the Son, the return of the Son of Mary. Which Jesus coming back? The Son of Mary. You sure? The son of Maryam, eh? Well, then how could that fella in Qadian say what he said? Have you no sense in your head? Is it only peanuts up there? And you're still defending him? And you're still defending the Ahmadis as good people? Do you have peanuts up there instead of brains? Will you not wake up? He said, it is the Son of Mary who will come back. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad declared that the prophecy is fulfilled in him. But the Son of Mary is coming back, and he is the son of a Punjabi woman. Have you got peanuts up there? We pray that Allah may guide them out of their misguidance. We pray that Allah may guide them out of their misguidance. And we offer them our book, Jerusalem in the Quran, as a guide that will help them out of their misguidance. The followers of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and those who refuse to declare he was a kafir. I don't know whether I understand the question properly. We have Shia and we have Sunnis, and we have differences in beliefs and so on between the Shia and Sunni. I did mention earlier that the deen is comprised of two parts, not one. There is that part of the deen which is your belief system, and there's another part of the deen which is your conduct. If a Shia is righteous in his conduct, even though he has defects in his belief, but he is righteous in conduct, he is in the deen. You cannot exclude him from the deen because of defects in his belief. The same thing with the Hindu, the same thing with the Christian. And if a Muslim, he says, I have all the right beliefs, but you can't trust him in business, he'll cheat you, he'll rip you off, he gives a word, he doesn't keep his word, he tells lies, he commits zina, he drinks alcohol, he doesn't have deen. The Muslim doesn't have deen, no, okay? So, this is the means by which we should relate to other religions. Buddhists, Hindu, Jews, Christians. Look to see the conduct of the person. And if that person is righteous in his conduct, then there must be something in his belief system of truth in it. So he is already in the deen because of his righteous conduct. And so you can build friendship and alliance with him. That's why I say, if he is a Jew and he stands up against the oppressor, NATO is the oppressor. And he denounces oppression and he struggles to liberate the oppressed and is righteous in his conduct, he is my brother. Then the second stage would be not with a stick, not the Ahmadi that way. No. You go to him to locate the truth which is with him. And when you locate the truth which is with him, and there is truth in the Vedas, the Hindu Vedas, yeah? There's truth in the Gospel, there's truth in the Torah. Then you lead him gently to the truth which is with you. That is the way you do da'wah.
Reap, you don't plant, you don't reap. Because Allah said so in the Quran. But nobody ever translated it like this. If you plant, you reap. If you don't plant, you can't reap. Where did he say that? MashaAllah, correct. وَأَلَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. This is the translation. You plant, you reap. You don't plant, you can't reap. But banks are not planting. The bank manager is playing tennis. Banks are not planting, but banks are reaping more than anybody else. But Allah says if you didn't plant, you can't reap. Well then how come banks are reaping when they didn't plant? Answer is simple. They're reaping what others are planting. Yeah, but Louis Farrakhan doesn't know that. No, he doesn't know that. They're reaping what others are planting. They're living off the sweat of the masses. They're sucking the blood of the masses. The blood suckers. So in the Muslim village we don't allow that. This is riba through the front door.
You never heard about it before, huh? Riba through the front door. May I introduce you to riba through the back door? Will you allow me? What you do is, you establish something called, a curious thing called the Islamic Bank. I don't know whether you've ever heard about it. No comments. You establish a curious thing called an Islamic Bank. And the Islamic Bank now lends money on interest, but disguises it as a sale. And if you disagree with me, the platform is yours. The platform is yours, brother. I'm ready anytime you are. Lend money on interest, but disguise it as a sale. That's backdoor riba. And it stinks. It's worse than riba through the front door. Because it traps those pious Muslims who want to stay away from haram. They are the ones who are attacked. This is deception at its worst. But we're not the first, you know. The Jews did it before us. But they don't know that. And the Prophet said we'll follow them step by step. He said that even if they go down into a lizard's hole, you'll go down into the lizard's hole. That's where the Islamic Bank is. Down in the lizard's hole. But we'll explain this in greater detail tomorrow, if we have the freedom to speak tomorrow. Is democracy shirk? Democracy is the politician has refined language. He has something called transparency and something called accountability, and similarly he has the term democracy. Democracy is one in which sovereignty is located with the people, and the people must decide. That's democracy. It is autocracy. It is something wrong that Allah should decide. No, let the people decide. If that is not democracy, then tell me. But politics in Islam is not based on recognizing the people as supreme. Politics in Islam is based on recognizing Allah as supreme. And once you recognize Allah is supreme, they say, no, that is not democracy. You cannot have Allah's law as the supreme law. That is not democracy. So I say, you take your democracy and go and throw it in the sea. I spoke about last night. You cannot establish Islam at the macro level, so go ahead and establish at the micro level. The jihad is already in force to liberate the Holy Land. No one can stop that jihad. No one can stop it. The jihad is already in force to liberate the territory from where the army will come, from Khorasan. No one can stop that jihad. When you see that army coming from Khorasan, the Prophet said, go and join that army, even if you have to crawl over ice. Because no one will be able to stop that army until it reaches Jerusalem. Where is Khorasan? Khorasan, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, has been researched by the eminent Pakistani scholar, Dr. Israr Ahmad, and he has explained that Khorasan is that territory which extends from northwest Pakistan, the Pathan belt, northeast Iran, the whole of Afghanistan, and the territory north of Afghanistan. But clearly Afghanistan is in the heart of Khorasan. No. This territory has one thing distinctive about it, that Europe could never colonize the heart of Khorasan. The British tried when Britain was the ruling state in the world, and the British failed. And then the Russians tried when they had the superpower, the Soviet Union. And after 12 years, the Russians failed. And guess who is trying now? Yes. The war in Khorasan has just begun, Mr. Bush. It has just begun. On that day, when Islam liberates Afghanistan, I believe it is that army which will be unstoppable until it reaches Jerusalem. But the last place that they're going to seek to penetrate is religion, because that's trouble. So you'll eventually see a woman as a priest, and you'll see her as a rabbi. And I heard the term for the first time in my life. I know about pandit, but I never heard pandita. And I heard it. And so it is inevitable. It is just a matter of time. Wait and you will see it. There will be women of Dajjal who will seek to become imam and deliver the khutbah. When that time comes, and it is going to come, what those women of Dajjal would do would be to exploit every mistake that we make. Every mistake that we make will open a door for them. And you may not be around to see it, but your sons will face the music tomorrow. Why did my grandfather, why did my father create this opportunity for them? In anticipation of that day, we're telling you tonight, what are the rights of women in the house of Allah? When we know what are the rights of women in the house of Allah, if those rights are now denied to her, don't react with anger towards the speaker. No. Rather, weep for tomorrow that is coming. Because so long as you deny her those rights in the house of Allah, it is as certain as the sun rises in the east that she is going to exploit that tomorrow to build a masjid for women only. And when she starts quoting these ahadith that we will be quoting tonight, 20 years from now, your daughters are going to be swept. And your daughters are going to flock to that masjid, where a woman will be on the mimbar giving the khutbah and leading the salah. That is the context in which we are giving this talk tonight.
Now then, why do they want the war on Iraq? And why do they want the war on other countries after Iraq? Number one, now is our microanalysis. I've taken 1 hour and 20 minutes. Number one, to make the region safe for Israel. Number two, to pave the way for Israel's big war of territorial expansion. Number three, to take physical control of the oil so that that physical control could be passed on to Israel. Number four, to take control of water and then pass on that control of water, the rivers of Iraq, to Israel. Number 5, to facilitate the consolidation of Shia Islam. That is Shia Iran and a Shia government in Iraq, whether Iraq is one state or many states, and Shia Lebanon coming together in one greater Shia world. And then to foment rivalry and conflict between Sunni Islam and Shia Islam. Divide and rule. Number 5, to pave the way for the fall of the United States of America as the ruling state of the world. And there are many American political commentators who are now predicting this. Number 6, number 1, to make the region safe for Israel. Number 2, to pave the way for Israel's big war of territorial expansion. Number 3, to allow control of oil to pass to Israel. Number 4, to allow control of water to pass to Israel. Number 5, to facilitate, I wrote number 5 twice. To facilitate the consolidation of Shia Islam and then to foment Shia-Sunni conflict. Number 6, to pave the way for the fall of the United States of America as the ruling state in the world. Number 7, to allow Israel to replace the United States as the ruling state in the world and to force the submission of Europe, of Japan, of the Muslim world, of Malaysia, and the rest of the world to the rule of Israel. And so finally, to allow Dajjal to complete his mission of impersonating the Messiah. Dajjal, the false Messiah, impersonating Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the true Messiah. These are the basic objectives of the war at the level of microanalysis.
The true Messiah will destroy the false Messiah. And when that happens, then a Muslim army will liberate the Holy Land. The Prophet said, when you see the black flags coming from the direction of Khurasan, go and join that army. That army has already started its march. They know it. And that's why they demonize as a terrorist anyone who supports that army. That army will liberate every single territory in a straight line until it reaches Jerusalem, said Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. At the heart of Khorasan is Afghanistan. And that's why they've occupied Afghanistan. Yes. When an army liberates every territory on its way to Jerusalem, there will be in that army Imam al-Mahdi. And so the liberation from oppression in the Holy Land is not going to come about through any negotiations conducted by Condoleezza Rice. The liberation from oppression in the Holy Land will come about, said Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, because of an armed response to oppression. The moral law is the highest law, higher than the United Nations Security Council. The moral law is that you have the right to respond to oppression. And if you cannot see oppression in the Holy Land, you're blind. And so history ends. History ends from the perspective of Islam with the truth triumphant over falsehood for the last time, with events unfolding in the Holy Land, with the true Messiah returning, and the true Messiah liberating the Holy Land, and the holy state of Israel, the one built on the truth of the religion of Abraham, that Israel will be restored, not this impostor. This impostor will go down into the garbage bin of history. That holy state of Israel will be restored. And that holy state of Israel will become the ruling state in the world. And the true religion of Abraham will triumph in the world. And so truth will triumph. And this will be the validation of Islam's claim to truth. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may bless all those who now take a little time, leave the television set for a moment, and take a little time to ponder and to reflect, to use the thinking capacity, use the acumen that Allah gave to you to think. Use the blessed Quran, the guidance which came in the blessed Quran, to seek to understand the world today, to seek to understand events that are so mysteriously unfolding, to seek to understand that end of history, and then no longer to stand aside as a spectator, but to join in the struggle for the triumph of truth over falsehood. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا يَا مَوْلَانَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ بِرَحْمَتِكَ يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ آمين.
And the question is with reference to hijab in the Quran. The Quran speaks about women wearing their head coverings over their bosoms. It does not say that the head has to be covered. Is there any other verse of the Quran which further explains this matter of covering of the head? If you want to know what the verse of the Quran means, and the Quran itself does not make it sufficiently plain to you, what do? The Quran declares that Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was sent لِيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابِ, to teach you the book. And so this is known as usul tafsir, the principles regulating the explanation of the Quran, usul tafsir. And when the Quran itself does not explain itself, then the next source is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what does he say on the subject in explaining the Quran? Asma radiallahu ta'ala anha came into the home while the Prophet ﷺ was in the home, and she was wearing clothing which was transparent. And he turned his face away and he said, Asma, when a girl reaches the age of puberty, nothing must be seen of her body except this, and he pointed to the face, and this, and he pointed to the hands. This statement of the Prophet ﷺ is explanatory of the Quranic guidance. Crystal clear, without any room for any ambiguity. The problem would be for those who have an insufficient knowledge of usul tafsir, and that is the principles regulating the explanation of the Quran. In usul tafsir, the first principle is that the Quran explains itself. The second is that the Prophet ﷺ explains the Quran, and then there are others after that.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin tonight's topic, let me take this opportunity to pay tribute to the memory of one who was my neighbor. I am from Trinidad and Tobago, and he was my neighbor in Venezuela. My brother, in Spanish, mi hermano, Hugo Chavez, who was a friend of Islam,
a friend of Muslims. And as a consequence, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might have mercy on his soul. His status in the Quran is فَيَغْفِرُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ وَيُعَذِّبُ مَن يَشَاءُ. 40 years ago, when I was a student at university studying Latin American politics and economics, I was introduced to the Latin American statesman Juan Domingo Alvarado, who wrote a very famous book entitled Sharks and Sardines. Sharks and Sardines. So many decades ago, Latin America was able to recognize what so many in the world of Islam today, our leaders, still cannot recognize. I don't know where we get our leaders from, particularly in Bangladesh. Particularly in Bangladesh. That we live in a world order today which is comprised of sharks and sardines. And Hugo Chavez stood up courageously as a soldier, as a politician, and as a statesman to defy the sharks. And he did it so successfully that all of South America, all of Central America, except those who worship the sharks, are proud of him and now weep for him. He not only stood up to defy the sharks of the world, but he also stood up to support the sardines of the world. And how we wish that we could have leaders in the world of Islam who would follow in the heroic footsteps of Hugo Chavez. May Allah have mercy on his soul. A religion, a conception of religion, which came in the European world, which gave to itself the name Protestantism, when it broke away from the Roman Catholic Church, and which insisted that religion was based on texts, T-E-X-T-S, and that the texts must be understood literally. This methodology of Protestant Islam, this methodology came to the Muslim world. It started with Muhammad Abdul Wahhab in Saudi Arabia, with a movement. I didn't coin the term, so don't take up boxing gloves for me. The world of Islam chose to call it the Wahhabi movement, so do not fight me over it. For how so long? The whole world of Islam has been calling it the Wahhabi movement. Now you want to fight me over the word? This movement now calls itself Salafi. And I am saying to them, and they are my brothers, and I am not fighting them, I am saying to them that you have the Protestant version of Islam. And in this Protestant version of Islam, where you confine yourself to the study of text, this is your primary concern. Not the nur, but the text. And that you interpret the text literally. This, you cannot understand Islamic eschatology. You will not be able to understand the world today. You will not be able to do what I just did. To say that the economic crash and the final financial crash subserve another greater whole. And that is Israel's ambition to replace the United States as the next ruling state in the world. Do the Salafis have this understanding?
In addition to the very valid point made about monetary matters, Islamic banking is also fraudulent on another front. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ would sometimes buy goods and he would not have the money to pay for it. So the shopkeeper would give him time to pay. When you buy and you're given time to pay, this is called a credit transaction. Credit transaction. So a credit transaction is halal in Islam. But there is no evidence that the shopkeeper was allowed to raise his price because he had to wait for his money. And so credit price and cash price had to be the same. If credit price is higher than cash price, higher purchase or murabaha, if credit price is higher than cash price, the difference between the two would be because of time. That money can increase over time. If you believe that money can increase over time, you are misguided, dangerously misguided. Because Allah says no, money cannot increase over time. That transaction is invalid. That is riba. But the Islamic banks, now they are beginning to understand that the tide is turning against them. So now they're back to the wall. But their so-called murabaha is not halal at all. It's actually riba through the back door. That the grandson of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam raised the standard of descent. Sayyidina Imam Hosein radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was a lion of a man. A lion of a man. And with great courage and matchless integrity, he stood up. He stood up against the corruption of the true religion. And he stood up against tyranny and oppression. And there's one from his family who is coming to complete the unfinished business that he was attending to. Eventually, the forces of tyranny and oppression, the forces of corruption of the true faith, surrounded him in Karbala. He didn't give up. He didn't compromise. He fought to the end, and all those who were with him fought to the end, and all became shuhada. We say tonight, no one in this gathering will dissent, and none who listen to this lecture in other lands will ever dissent. The Nabi Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam must be proud of his grandson. And that Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha must be proud of her grandson. And that Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu must be proud of his son. What more do you want? And that Fatima Zahra radiallahu ta'ala anha, the daughter of the Prophet and the mother of Imam Hussein, must be proud of her son. And this ummah, for 1400 years now, as we look back at that moment when he stood up to preserve the pure religion from corruption, when he stood up against tyranny and oppression, this ummah has been proud of him for 1400 years now.
Now let me say to you before I leave Australia, any Muslim, whenever I talk on two subjects, a lot of people now begin to behave strangely towards me. But while it pains my heart, it will not change me, because I do not teach Islam to please people. I try to do it to please my Lord. When I talk on the subject of riba, some people begin to hate me. Yeah, it doesn't matter. When I talk on this subject also, when a Muslim pledges his allegiance to the modern secular state and to its constitution, which declares that Allah is no longer Al-Malik, no longer Al-Akbar, no longer Al-Hakam. The state is now Al-Malik, Al-Akbar and Al-Hakam. And the state can make halal what Allah made haram. When a Muslim pledges his allegiance, and you've got to do that to get citizenship. Oh yeah, can't get a US passport without pledging allegiance. When you do that, you commit shirk. If you don't believe me, no problem, no problem. When you reach the grave, then you will see. When a Muslim goes and votes in the elections to constitute the government which will preside over this shirk, you enter into shirk. But if you don't believe me and you want to go and vote in the elections, I am not stopping you. So don't let there be any bad blood between us. I'm not stopping you. But when you enter in the grave and you find that you've entered into shirk, do not plead ignorance, that's all. Stand up like a man and take it on that day. This is now the universal shirk that the Prophet ﷺ had prophesied. He said the time would come when shirk will be everywhere, be so difficult to recognize it. However, as difficult as it would be to recognize a black ant on a black stone on a dark night. So if you did not recognize it before this lecture, don't be surprised, but now you know. A Muslim king or Muslim ruler would die, and then there would be disagreement concerning succession. And at that time a man is going to come out of Medina and hurry towards Mecca. He said his name will be my name and his father's name will be my father's name. This is Sahih Muslim. He will have a broad forehead and a large nose. He's not going to be an Indonesian. Don't bother with that. He's an Arab. He's an Arab. And he's a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ through his daughter Fatima. I can tell you one thing else. He's a Sunni Muslim. He's a Sunni Muslim. If at that time when the Imam comes out and declares himself to be Imam al-Mahdi, if the Shia accept him as the Imam, then they are our brothers. But if they reject him as the Imam, then they are lost. They're lost. If you expect that the Imam who's coming out of Medina is a Shia, you're living in fairyland. You're living in fairyland. Okay? He's a well-known man, well-known person. People of Makkah come out to him and force him to accept the bay'ah. And he accepts the bay'ah at the Kaaba. When he does that, Then he is attacked by an army from Syria. As an army crosses Medina on its way to Mecca, the earth will open and swallow it. This is sign number 9 of the 10 signs. Then he is attacked by an Arab army from the Quraysh. And remember that armies are under the control of governments. When he defeats that army, now he has control of Jaziratul Arab. The Arabian heartland of Islam is liberated. The Islamic revolution has come to Arabia. This is the most dangerous of all threats to the Jewish state of Israel. An Islamic revolution in Arabia. It is at this moment that I was delivering a lecture in Manhattan, and I said, that will be goodbye to Saudi Arabia. And I didn't know that the Kuwaiti ambassador was sitting in front of me. Kuwaiti ambassador was not about this. Because goodbye to Saudi Arabia is also goodbye to Kuwait. When the Arabian Peninsula is liberated, Darul Islam is restored, it is at that time that Dajjal will now attack.
During the 8 years that Obama was the president of the Union, Barack Obama, he did not accept the claim that the Syrian government was responsible for the chemical attack that was launched a few years ago. And he refused to respond with a military attack on Syria, and they hated him for that. But Russia helped Barack Obama on that time, because Russia then persuaded the Syrian government to accept that they did have chemical weapons and to agree to the destruction of all chemical weapons. And an international organization was accredited to do the job of ensuring that all the chemical weapons were destroyed, and they were destroyed. And so the Russian government helped the American government at that time, and the American government did not respond with any military attack on Syria. And this is to the credit of Barack Obama, and we give him the credit for that.
Gog and Magog have freed from between the Caucasus Mountains. Would these people be Caucasian people? The Khalifa sent an army sometime around the year 50 Hijri. Sorry, not an army. This is in all the books of Tafsir. He sent an expedition to try and locate that barrier which was built by Zulkarnain. That expedition returned with the news that they located the barrier, and it was lying in ruins. So if you're waiting for Gog and Magog to come sometime in the future, brother, keep waiting. The barrier is lying in ruins. And companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they themselves gave the testimony that they went and saw with their own eyes. They located the barrier and it was lying in ruins. Where was it located? In a pass between the Caucasus Mountains. So when you hear the term white Caucasian male, there's something behind that to look into. White Caucasian male. Next question. The Prophet said that Dajjal will not enter Makkah and Medina. Dajjal will not enter Makkah and Medina. The angels will prevent him from entering. And I say that Dajjal is already in Makkah and Medina. If you go to perform Umrah, you see Dajjal everywhere you turn. Meaning, you see the footprints of Dajjal, you see the evidence of Dajjal everywhere you turn. Go to Makkah and Medina today.
What the hadith is saying is that at that time, when Dajjal will appear as a human being, at that time when he attacks Makkah and Medina, he will be attacking while riding on a donkey. You know about a donkey. And the donkey will fly, it has wings, and fly faster than the clouds. And the donkey will have his ears stretched out wide. Dajjal will be riding on that donkey. We have interpreted it to be fighter aircraft. But you don't have to accept our opinion. No. You can, if you wish, choose to wait for the flying donkey. We have interpreted it as the fighter aircraft. The Dajjal controls the skies. If you ask the Libyan leader, he will tell you Dajjal controls the skies. So at that time when Israel attacks, Makkah and Medina will be barred from them. They will not be able to attack Makkah and Medina because the angels will prevent them. Last question, yeah. From? India. What part of India? Hamwatan. My forefathers left Hyderabad, Deccan, 150 years ago. You were not born at that time. Go ahead.
So my question is, most of the Muslim people in India, they think that investing in stock exchange is haram. Is that right?
The stock market would be halal provided that the companies, the businesses which are in the stock market are operating halal. Okay? If you ever have a stock market with companies that are operating halal, they would shut it down. It won't survive. All the stock markets in the world today are all haram, because the companies which are operating are all haram. Yeah. In my book on riba, there is a section of question and answers in which there is this question and answer for you. Yeah.
You just gave an explanation that if a business has risk in it, so it becomes halal.
Yeah. But suppose the business is borrowing money on interest, would that be halal? You know any business that does not borrow money on interest? Doesn't have an overdraft? They all have overdrafts, yeah? So they're haram. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Allah put a beard on the face of the male? Did he? Yeah, I think he did it. Would you agree with me? That Allah put a beard on the face of the male? How are you so quiet? Why did he put a beard on the face of the male? So you can distinguish the male from the female from a distance, without having to look to any other part of the body. And men always wore their beards, always, all through history. It didn't matter which religion you belonged to, until when? Until the Jews and the Christians shaved it off. Which Jews and Christians? The one in the white world. And when they shaved it off, guess what happened? All of us shaved it off. Illa masha'Allah. And those who didn't shave it off, they kept an apology of a beard. Next question. I am a trader. Is trading currency in foreign exchange haram, or in stocks and shares permissible? Answer: all paper money is haram in the current money system in the world. All paper money is haram. And so any business involving paper money would be haram. Electronic money is taking over from paper money and is even more haram than electronic money. And I have written my book, The Gold Dinar and Silver Dirham, Islam and the Future Money,
the future of money, which explains this subject. Trading in stocks and bonds. A bond, I believe, is a loan on interest. The word bond, of course, has another meaning outside of finance. Loans on interest are haram. I answered this question many years ago. I said the plan is to bring down the whole world of paper money because they don't need it anymore. Paper money has already done its job of ripping off mankind. They have something better than paper money. They have something, a new money. I don't think you're going to believe this one. Money you can't see. Invisible money. Huh? Money you can't touch. Intangible money. Who except someone with the mental acumen, the intellectual acumen of a donkey will accept that as money? Money you can't see, money you can't touch. Huh? But we're going to get fatwa tomorrow, yes, it's halal. Electronic money. Electronic money, digital money. Now you save yourself, you don't have to have a printing press. You don't have to buy paper. You don't have to buy ink. No, all you have to do is to type in the money. And the same way you type in, you can type out. Yeah. You can't take your money out of the banking system. No. Tabule. You can only transfer your money from one account to another. That's all. So your money is held hostage. And the Zionists can wipe out your money anytime they want because governments can be bought and governments can be sold. Is there any connection between a woman and Dajjal? The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, Dajjal has many battlegrounds through which he attacks us. But his last battleground is women. He said the last people to follow Dajjal will be women. And a man would have to return to his home and tie, meaning coercively restrain his wife, sister, daughter, to protect them from being seduced by Dajjal, indicating that in Akhirul Zaman, a feminist revolution is going to emerge. And those who are in that feminist revolution will be so brainwashed that no matter what you say to them, you can't convince them. Your own daughter, and she now becomes a lesbian. Yeah? And it's a shame, a disgrace for the whole family. But no matter what you say to her, nothing works. Yes? And your sister throws away her hijab. And she goes out in the open without any hijab. And the brother flew all the way from Tunisia to come to consult with me, Sheikh, what to do? What to do? My sister had thrown away the hijab, and now she's dressing the way the others are dressing, half naked. This is what the Prophet is talking about. That in Akhirul Zaman there's going to be a feminist revolution. So when you find a Muslim woman, who is truly a woman and does not want to become a man, who wants to fulfill her functions as a woman and does not want to embrace the functions of a man, and who dresses the way a woman should dress modestly, and who wants a husband who is a man, not a boy. You should treasure such a woman. How do you relate the current technology with Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, robots, machine learning with Dajjal? Yes, of course. It is connected with Dajjal, artificial intelligence, robotic engineering and so on. It's all connected with Dajjal. If you lose the capacity to understand that nothing in the world can compare with the human mind, nothing. There cannot be artificial intelligence anywhere out there comparable with the human mind. But the day you accept that artificial intelligence can replace the human mind, then you deserve to lose your capacity for thought. So regardless of what they produce out there, in the world of robotic engineering and artificial intelligence and all of these things, regardless of how fascinating the internet may become, you still do not have an excuse for going into the Quran and searching in the Quran for that which Allah has given to you, which explains the reality of the world today. You do not have an excuse if you don't do that. Yeah.
What happens after the malhama? What do we do? Those of us who die are the lucky ones. I hope and I pray that I am one of the lucky ones. We die. Even if you die before the malhama, you are lucky. This is a nice time to die. This is a good time to leave the world. After the malhama is going to be a terrible world. Those who survive the malhama, I don't know how you're going to live. No sunlight. For I don't know how many days, no sunlight. But this is the message that we give from Islamic eschatology. And may Allah take these words of mine all over the world. That if you live to see the malhama, and if you survive the malhama, then Imran is saying to you, on the basis of the prophecy of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, if you are young enough and strong enough to fight, then make some preparations for your family and head for Constantinople. Wherever in the world you may be, give up everything else. Leave Indonesia. Leave Malaysia. No government can stand in your way. The followers of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, all over the world, as soon as the malhama takes place, are going to head for Constantinople. Because he said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, لَتَفْتَحَنَّ الْقُنْسْتَنْتِنِيَّةِ, you will most certainly conquer Constantinople. وَلَنِعْمَ الْأَمِيرُ آمِرُهَا, what a wonderful commander will that be of that army. وَلَنِعْمَ الْجَيْشُ ذَلِكَ الْجَيْشَ, and what a wonderful army that would be.
that will conquer Constantinople.
The Iranian government is a Shia government. But when Imam Khomeini, rahimahullah, succeeded in the revolution in Iran, Imam Khomeini reached out to the leadership of the Sunni world. He wrote, for example, a letter to Maulana Maududi, rahimahullah, in Pakistan, seeking to build a bridge of Shia-Sunni unity. That was Imam Khomeini, rahimahullah. So the revolution that came to Iran was not a sectarian Shia revolution. It was more of an Islamic revolution than it was a Shia revolution.
An education system is coming in 2020 in UK. It will become compulsory to teach children in schools about sex segregation related to homosexuality, and that they will be taught that it is acceptable for a man to love another man, this kind of thing. What is your opinion? What is your advice to the people of Britain, the Muslims living in Britain and the West?
No, I don't have any advice for them. I only have knowledge to give to them. And this is absolutely certain knowledge. They better wake up. That if they allow their children to go to such schools, whether the law asks you to do it or does not ask you to do it is irrelevant to me. Irrelevant. If you allow your children to go to such schools, and your children are taught that a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate, that this is perfectly acceptable, Allah will send you into the hellfire, because He has commanded you in the Quran, protect yourself and protect your families from the fire. Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. And you choose to tell Allah, off with you, I don't care for you. I don't care for your commands in the Quran. And you send your children to this school, He'll throw you into the hellfire, and when you're in the hellfire, don't send me an email saying, Sheikh, what did I do? That's my answer to you. If you have children, and the law requires you to send your children to the school to be taught this rubbish, this dangerous rubbish, then your obligation is to make hijrah. And Allah's earth is wide. However, the warning now is that if you have not had sincerity in your heart, in your relationship with Allah, you can try as much as you want to make hijrah. You will never succeed. Allah will block every single door to you. Yes. You remain sitting and eating and living comfortably while the rest of the world is suffering and suffering and suffering. And now you want to jump out of the pot. And it's too late. Too late to jump out of the pot. Why? Because you have not been sincere in your heart, in your relationship with Allah. And it's now too late. I have found so many people who have tried to make hijrah, and all that they do is that they return back to Britain. They fail. Because you did not have sincerity in your heart in the first place. So Allah has blocked the door to hijrah for you. You will now remain in the boiling pot and boil with the rest of mankind.
There is a hadith in Sahih Muslim we call the hadith of Tamim Udari, which gives us the answer. We don't have the time to give you that hadith in detail, but you go into the book and you find it. The hadith informs us that when Dajjal is released on earth, he's going to be on an island, number one. Number two, the island will be about 1 month's journey by sea from the Arab world. Number three, the island will be an island that conceals his true identity. Number four, the island will be an island that specializes in spying and espionage, which island is it? This is my answer. You don't have to agree with me. But if you say I'm wrong, you must tell me what is the right answer before you can leave. In October of 1917, it is the island of Britain which issues the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration. That it is intention of His Majesty's government, let's make it His Majesty's God-bless government, to work for the establishment of a Jewish national home in the Holy Land. Strange thing, isn't it? Number two, in December of 1917, the British Army defeats the Turkish Army, liberates the Holy Land for the Jews. Number three, it is the island of Britain which rules over the Holy Land from 1917 to 1948 on a mandate conferred by the League of Nations. And during that time, the Jews are allowed to return. They eventually reclaim the land. Something that the Ottoman Islamic Empire never allowed. Number four, it is the island of Britain which presides over the birth of the Jewish state of Israel in 1948. I've only given you four. There are more. There is more evidence than this. But you might want to go and do some research now. You might want to go back and study British history one more time, as I am doing now. Go back and re-study all that I studied before. Re-study it now. I come to the conclusion that the island is Britain. That when Dajjal is released on an earth in a day which is like a year and commences his mission to impersonate the Messiah, it is from Britain that he launches his attack. And I notice that he who wants to rule the world and deliver to the Jews rule over the world causes Britain to become ruling state in the world.